I don't think anyone needs an introduction to you. So I'll just ask from there, maybe, just give a little explanation to us as to how you got into this field and what exactly are you going to talk to us about today.
Okay, thanks, Niket. Great to be back to Awareness Foundation. Thank you so much. It's an expanding group, and I know a lot of people from my whirling group, sacred dance group, from my clinic group have also joined into your WhatsApp group and have been, joining in some of the sessions, and they are all very appreciative of the work that you're doing. So we are all really happy to be part of, sharing of the Awareness Foundation space. Thank you so much. And today I'm going to talk about somatic intelligence. As the name suggests, it is about intelligence of our soma. Soma is a Greek word for body. So today's session is about moving into our body intelligence. And I got into this work many years ago. Actually, my first experience of body intelligence, body awareness, wisdom in the body was almost 25 years ago when I started Gurdjieff movements. It started with dance, and the insights that came from Gurdjieff. Also, because I was studying Gurdjieff movements in the Osho commune, there were many insights that were brought by the facilitators, which were coming from Osho's guidance on how to be involved in a meditative space with the movements. And that kind of really started to show me, to reveal in my own body, as well as, all the other practitioners who I was dancing and practicing this work with, was what a deep healing effect it had on the body, one. And second, the realization that the body has its own dynamic capacity to self-correct, self-heal. And third, that this intelligence in the body is with us at all times. So this is really, to be aware that we are holding this resource in our body, this resource of health in our body. Our body itself is a well-being, a wellspring of health resources. Is quite profound to know that a lot of our health issues can be self-corrected if we just let our body move into the stable field within, and the body can then self-correct. So that was my early introduction to body intelligence. And then with craniosacral therapy, I was introduced to Peter Levine's work, trauma healing and somatic experiencing. And everything that I studied in that correlated with my dance work in the Gurdjieff study. And though Gurdjieff was coming from a mystical space, bringing the mystical awareness and experience into the science of the body, here Peter Levine was bringing the science of the body, the neurobiology of the body, and then seeing that what it was opening up to was a space of deep consciousness, awareness, witness consciousness, and meditation. So from spirituality to science, from science to spirituality in our body, science and spirituality have a meeting place. And this has been my learning, and this inspired me to create workshops and training programs with somatic intelligence. I've been using it in my clinical practice, integrated with craniosacral therapy for many years now. And recently I've started teaching it in the past couple of years. So really happy to share this. I just want to also say that I want to make this presentation and this introductory talk a kind of interactive. So I will be asking questions, checking in with a lot of you. So it would be great to have your participation. Niket will help facilitate that. So thanks in advance with that, Niket. Niket, anything you want to say before I start?
Have you seen the logo of awareness?
Yes.
So that's science and spirituality for you.
Absolutely. So we don't need to say more. And I'm glad you brought that up. It's a, it's a very fitting logo, and it's the right kind of place to share this work with. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. So, I'm going to introduce this work in the same way, in the same journey that I learned it. Now, a lot of you over here, maybe, I think many of you are here also from the from the Sacred Dance group and also from my clinic group. And you might have heard me say many times that Gurdjieff, so for those of you who don't know, George Gurdjieff was an Armenian mystic. He was a master of dance. He used dance and movement as a tool and as a methodology for us to experience our deeper as well as our higher consciousness. So the body became an instrument to experience the evolution of our consciousness. And he got these movements originating from ancient Sufi traditions. And Gurdjieff explained that we have three sources of energy in us. One being the physical, which is related to our body. The other being the mental, which is related to our thoughts, our mind. Another being the heart space, which is relating to our feelings and our emotions. Now, the way we live our lives generally, each one of us has a more, we're kind of leaning more, or we have a more dominant space in one of these energies. When we come into a space of sacred balance and equilibrium of these energies, then we come into a meditative space, right? So meditation is when all of these energies align in equilibrium. In a non-meditative space, one or the other energy is more dominating. So in yoga also we have the same principle. There's karma yoga, which is all about action, work, using the body. Then there's dhyan yoga, which is intellectual. There's bhakti yoga, which is the space of the heart. And then when all these yogas come together, when a yogic practitioner can bring all these yogas into equilibrium and alignment, that yogic practitioner arrives to the point of Rajas Yoga. That's, as the word suggests, the king of yogas. And Gurdjieff said the same thing, that when all these different centers of energy come into an equilibrium, we arrive into what Gurdjieff called a presence of being. What we call today, as we know it, that sacred space of meditative beingness, just being here now, fully content, fully present. Now, I want to ask all of you, if you take a few moments to just reflect on yourself, where do you feel that your energy is leaning more on? Are you more physical oriented than, people who are more physical oriented would need and would be a lot more into fitness, exercise, dance, gymnastics, sport. That's what their body requires on a regular basis. They feel out of balance if they don't get that. For those who are more in the heart space, they kind of operate in their life through feelings. Everything that happens around them, they need to understand it from a feeling space. They're really sensitive, very emotional. Easily if something goes wrong and it's their whole emotional balance is kind of disturbed. So that's when we're kind of leaning into our heart space a lot more. And if we are in the mind, then we're very intellectual, and we kind of like, even if it's a very emotional situation is happening, a person who's kind of coming from a mental space, dominating from a mental space, they'll apply logic, they'll apply reason, they'll think about their feelings. These are people who become lawyers, they become a scientist, heart people will become poets or artists. So take a moment and see, of course, all these three energy sources are kind of mingling with one another, but each one of us has a kind of a dominant space. We're kind of leaning more, heavier more into one of them. And if you recognize what it is for you, just show your hand, and Niket will unmute you. You can say where you are. It'll also give us a sense of where we are as a group.
I think this would be better to have them put it on the chat. So why don't you just put it on the chat where you're operating from? Yeah, that would be much better and quicker.
Okay, so we have heart, feelings, heart, mental, heart. Wonderful. So many heart, emotional feeling spaces. Heart and mind, mind, heart. You can have a combination also. Body, heart and body, Heart and body people would be normally dancers. Emotional heart, body, mind and body and thinking. And I want everyone to take a moment to look onto the chat screen to see, you know, what the orientation is over here in the group. Heart and mind, mind and heart. Great, lovely. So key and heart depending on the situation. Mind, heart, and then body. I like that you can give a preference. First from the mind, then goes to the heart, then goes to the body. Mind and heart, heart. Now what I'm seeing is I'm seeing a lot of heart, I'm seeing a lot of mind, mostly heart, a few heart, mind, body. And interestingly, I'm not seeing so much of body. A combination of heart and mind and a little body. Heart and mind and body. Okay. What does it mean to operate from the body? What does it really mean to process your daily life through the body? So I'm asking this question to you. You know, if somebody is very
now I
body,
guess if someone wants to answer, please raise your hand.
Nalini says exercise, so that's body.
Kokil, you can unmute.
Yes. So operating from the body would be more present, being in the now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's good. That's a good sense of your experience with the body. Sensation, Chantika said sensation, that's very much body. Renuka said yoga, that's very much body. And yoga actually would involve all, because yoga means union. It's a union of heart, mind, and body. When you bring your, you know, you bring your mind and your heart into a centering space with your asana, that's unification. Physical fitness, physical, operating from the body through sensations and in the doing. So that's very much body. Nidhi is saying dance. Deepa is saying movement and sensing in and through the body, physical, active, lovely.
Okay, we have one more hand.
Yeah.
So Shalu, you can unmute and say what you want to say. Shalu, please unmute.
Yeah, hi. I think I'm primarily a body person because I constantly need to do something. I can barely sit idle. Then I also need a daily hour and a half or two maybe of exercise. Then seasons, rain, sunshine, all of them have a serious impact on my well-being and my mood. Yeah, so it makes me feel that physical spaces influence me. Scenery, nature, smells.
Lovely. So it's very much part of the sensory experience.
That's right.
And Rupa asked the question, Rupa asked that she missed the question. Rupa, the question is, where are your processing style is orienting more into physical, you know, with the body, or is it more mental? You process more mentally in your life, or do you process more through the emotions, through the feeling space? And that's what everyone is responding to. Okay, so coming back to where we were. Now, in these three experiences and in these three sources of energy, when one of these energies or a combination of these energies take over, there's something else that's missing. So in that, there is already an imbalance created. But if you see the design of our body, it's designed to function in equilibrium of all three sources of energy. And when we have all the three sources of energy coming together, there's a centering, there's a stillness, there's an awakening, and there's a restfulness. So we are in a restful alertness when we are in the equilibrium of these sources of energy. Now, another way that I'm just sharing with you all the languaging that's happening around the world for this. Another way to describe it is we have three centers in our body, which is the belly. The belly relates to instinct, heart, emotions, and mind, reason, and logic. So belly, heart, and mind. Yeah. And in the center of all that, we have the midline, we have the spine, which is the axis along which these are placed along the spine axis. Yes, Nalini is saying that happens in yoga, doesn't it? Yes, very much, it does. So, somatic intelligence, when I use the word somatic intelligence, I really use it for the purpose of health. When people come to me with lots of health issues, I often find that they are really far away from the awareness of their body. So they talk about the symptoms, they talk about what they think of these symptoms, they talk about what they feel about these symptoms, but they're not able to say what's the sensory experience of the symptoms. Like if somebody comes with, with long-term migraine headache issue or long-term pain pattern issue, you ask them, so what is the pain like for you? And immediately the whole response is around, I can't do this, I can't do this, my whole life is affected in this way, I'm not able to do it, I get really anxious, I have to take the pills don't work, I have to do something else. And all of this stress is going out of the body. We're constantly finding situations outside of the body to support the symptom which is in the body. But we're not able to come into the body. Why aren't we able to come into the body? Because now with these symptoms flaring up, it's already too uncomfortable to be in the body. And interestingly, mostly all over the world, this is because of our education system or the lack in the education system. We never learn in school to be present in the body. This kind of languaging, this kind of orientation and awareness is not taught to us. So by the time we start approaching this topic, we're already in our 20s at the minimum, or 30s or 40s. By then, our system and our conditioning is set in a certain way. And when we ask people, so how do you feel in your body right now? They're like, huh? Body? Body? I'm fine. What are you talking about? Body? What body? They only know their body when there's a symptom. When they are in pain, they feel the body. When you are not in pain, what are you present with? What occupies your attention? Things that are happening, mostly the mind is continuously thinking. And when the mind is continuously thinking, the nature of the mind is not to be in the present moment. The nature of the mind is to think. Your thoughts are always about the past or about the future. But your thoughts are not about this present moment. So what is in this present moment? The only thing that is in this present moment is the body. The body is here now. Here, right here, you are. This moment now, I am. And if I move into my thinking space, my thoughts will take me into my past or into my future. There's a very interesting saying that comes from, it's an ancient Zen quote, and it says from Lao Tzu, but I'm not sure. But this is how it goes. If you are depressed or angry, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. If you are at peace, you are living in the present. Why? Because if you are in the present, you are in the present with the body. The body is here. The body does not exist in the past. The body does not exist in the future. The body does not exist in the dreams and desires of the heart. Irrespective of the past and future, the body is existing here now. All the faculties of the body are functioning here now. So health is here now. Health is in the body, and health is here now with the body. Zarathustra said, begin with the body. The body is the outer side of your being. Your being is the inner side of your body. If you want to reach your being, you must begin with the body. Okay, so I'm going to get into, Nikita, I want to get into my presentation. Have you made me co-host?
Yeah, it's done. Please share.
So here I want to start with introducing you to the triune brain system. Let's understand our brain. If we are talking about the three sources of energy and we're talking about the body, we also need to understand that our brain, when we're talking about thinking, the thinking is a product and a function of the brain. And the brain is a collection of nerve cells, nerve fibers, nerve tissue, fluids, blood vessels, which is all part of the body. So our brain very much is part of the body. And in the 1960s, the neuroscientist Paul Diniklin, he founded the triune brain system. He did a lot of study on the evolution of brain, and he founded a theory and he called it the triune brain system. The triune brain system means a three-part brain. He recognized the functions of our brain in three broad categories. Now, the brain is still functioning as one unit, but there are different parts of the brain that are dominating specific functions. So in this system of the triune brain, the triune brain system, we really come clearly to sensing, feeling, and thinking. Sensing for the body, feeling for the heart, thinking for the mind. Now, our brain is very different in this time than what it was, say, 15 to 20,000 years ago. Our daily life requires us to function differently today compared to that of our ancestors. When I say ancestors, I mean like really like when we were hunter-gatherers or even before that. What was our life all about? It was not so much about mental processing. It was a lot about survival, right? Survival meant, this is even before agriculture and farming came into the picture, because then, you know, at that time, all that was that humans could survive on was hunting for their food. There was no way that they could store it. So they were always living in the present moment, and they always dependent on the environment for their survival. Now, the brain, the way it functioned that time is very different from how the brain is functioning today. Today, survival of the physical body is not a question. We're all very comfortable compared to our ancestors who were hunter-gatherers. We're not worried about when our next food will come, how long we'll have to stay hungry, how long we'll have to survive in hunger before food comes, shelter us from cold or heat, finding caves to stay together as a tribe, you know. So mental functioning, mental reasoning, thought processing, logical analysis, all of this was much lower, and just physical work, physical skill for hunting was much more developed. Now, our children, as they grow in age, in today's world, in this time of digital technology, their brains are going to have very different functioning, as you must already be seeing. And with 2020, COVID-19, you know, now we are seeing everyone has got onto the computer, all programs are happening online, education is happening online. So our children's brains are also going to develop much differently than it was for us, say 30 years ago, 50 years ago, and maybe 10,000 years ago. So this is going to show that our brain is continuously evolving to meet the environment and the requirement. Now, in the triune brain system, there's a three-part brain. The primitive brain, which is also called as the reptilian brain, is right here at the base. You know, if you put your hand, actually it's nice, take your hand and move up from the curve of your neck just to the base of the head, where the cranium, where the head and the neck meet, just there. And actually take it under your hair. See, you can really touch it, feel it. This is where the brainstem is. This is where the lower part of the brain is. And this part of the brain is called the reptilian brain, the primitive brain. So our ancestors 10, 15,000 years ago were very dependent on the functions of the reptilian brain. The reptilian brain, as it comes from the word reptiles. So when we see reptiles, they have only one brain. Humans have three brains. The reptiles have only one brain. What do reptiles do? They need to hunt. They need to eat and digest. They need to sleep. and recover, and they need to reproduce. That's it. Beyond this, they don't have any other aspect to their life. So it is purely for survival. But if you see reptiles, their sensory ability is so sharp, so heightened. They have such an acute sense of their environment around. They pick up vibrations. They know from far what is happening, maybe 500 or 3 kilometers away. When the tsunami was coming, we know of how animals started moving up and out of the forest, because before we could sense it, they sensed it. So their sensory intelligence is very heightened. Now that's about the reptilian brain. We have it. Human beings have this. But are we using it sufficiently? No, because this brain is all about survival. And survival is not an issue for us currently, right? So in today, right now in our world, what do we use our reptilian brain for? When we are hungry, this brain informs us. When we are sick, this brain informs us. When we are threatened, our survival is threatened, this brain informs us. If we are sitting quietly in a park, it's late at night, I'm sitting on a bench, everything's quiet, there is no sound, but I have a sense that some presence is approaching behind me. This is my reptilian brain informing me. Something's changing in my environment. Even though I cannot turn back and see, before I turn and see, reptilian brain has already picked up a change in the environment. It's informing me, it's informing my body. I have that sensory awareness in my body, and my impulse makes me turn around to see who is there. So the reptilian brain brings us instinct, impulse, survival, food for hunger, reproduction, and generally overall well-being, right? All our autonomic nervous system functioning is guided by the reptilian brain. Now, this is a midbrain called the limbic brain, also known as the paleo-mammalian brain or the mammalian brain. So if you see the next level of species from the reptile to the mammals, all the mammals, that's us humans, including cows, dogs, cats, tigers, deers, elephants, all of them are mammals. So the difference between mammals and reptiles are mammals form societies. They take care of their young ones. They have attachment. They do nurturing. They are emotionally attached to their offspring. They mate, and many mammals stick to the same mate for the rest of their lives. So there's something around emotions which is part of this mammalian brain, which is our midbrain. It's between this area. Yeah, so if you just keep your hand like this. So in between that area is the midbrain, the limbic brain. So mammals will have the reptilian brain, which allows them all the facilities for survival, instinct, impulse. And then they have the mammalian brain, the limbic brain, which allows them to form relationships. They feel fear. If they lose a loved one, they feel sadness. You can see this with domestic pets. They have the capacity to build relationships interspecies. You can see this with domestic pets, cows and wolves, horses, even mammals in the wild have the ability to form relationships interspecies, which reptiles don't have. If a reptile's hungry and you have had the reptile in your house all its life, if you are part of its food group, if it's hungry, if it can't find anything to eat, it doesn't care that you took care of it. It doesn't have that brain. It will eat you. That's all. It's as simple as that. Some of them, of course, defy this evolutionary process, and that's an exception. That's not the law. But generally, reptiles don't have a mammalian brain, so they cannot have the sense of feeling. As humans, we have this very deeply formed in us, and that's why we have long gestational period. We have long nurturing period. We milk, we breastfeed our babies. We take care of them. Reptiles, the babies, they are born, they lay eggs, babies are born, they take care of themselves and they move on. There's no nurturing, taking care, teaching the babies how to survive. All that doesn't happen. Baby snakes are born, baby turtles are born, they just go out, find their way. They are on their own with their survival. They don't have a mammalian brain. Now, this is the third part of the triune brain. This is the most evolved. It's called the neocortex. And the neocortex means the new cortex of the brain, which comes all the way from here. And we're going to talk about this part of the brain a little bit more, but comes all the way from here, goes all about outside. So when we talk about intellect, buddhi, we're always relating to this part of our brain. We're not relating to this part. When we talk about instinct, I had a sixth sense. We don't talk about this. We talk about this. Here's our sixth sense, to be able to pick up information from the environment. Here's our forebrain, our neocortex, to be able to think ahead, look into the future, to be able to see what is happening right now in the situation and what this can lead to have foresight. Hindsight is here, foresight is here. So this is part of our intellect. This also gives us the capacity to judge, to have logic, to have analysis, for memory, information processing, argument, social discussions. All of this comes from the neocortex. Now for humans, something very interesting happens. We have the reptilian brain that gives us impulse, instinct for survival, mammalian brain that gives us emotions and relationships, and the neocortex that gives us thought, analysis, and intellect. When we use all these three brains, that makes us a very intelligent species, and we're able to do a lot more than our fellow species and what other animal species can do in the world today. That's because we have a neocortex. Some animals are known to also have a neocortex, like the primates, monkeys, elephants, but the neocortex is not as developed as the human brain neocortex. Now, some other neurobiologists created a fourth, they kind of expressed their understanding of the functioning of the brain, and they created an imagery of a four-part brain, where they distinguished this part of the cortex with this part of the cortex as having different functions. So like I was saying, this gives us intuition and foresight. This gives us reasoning, logic, thinking, analysis, judgment, ability to go into the past, travel into the future with our memory. But when we are too much caught up with the neocortex, we lose touch with the mammalian brain. We lose touch with how we feel with these thoughts. We lose touch with the sensory experience of this. So somatic intelligence is really to learn, are we using all these four different aspects of our brain in equilibrium? If we're not, how can we? If we do, what happens? Now, in this four-part brain, as our brain evolves, over the last 10, 15,000 years ago to now, the humans had a triune brain system even then. And now they still have a triune brain system, but something more has developed, right? And here, if you can see, it's a really beautiful illustration. I hope all of you can see it, and I hope you are all seeing it on your computers. It's a beautiful illustration. They have shown the reptile from the base of the brain and the tail of the reptile going down into the spinal cord. That's all about survival.
Zia, you can take your cursor to the spot and...
Right, okay.
That will
I'll have to... Okay. It kind of minimizes the screen, but here you can see the reptile image here from the base of the brain, part of the reptilian brain, and the tail going all the way down. This is showing that our evolutionary process has come from reptiles, and our tail has become the spinal cord going all the way down. That's why the tailbone is called the tailbone. Okay. Then we have the furry mammals. This is showing that we have the mammalian brain and nurturing attachment, forming societies based on emotions. Here we have the primate, the cortex with the monkey brain. This is what the monkey brain can do. It can do all kinds of brain gymnastics with its thoughts and ideas. And then here, this part of the neocortex, this artist has represented with a dolphin. Now, dolphins, we all know, especially in the spiritual context, dolphins symbolize intuition and foresight, our connection to the other world. And this is also coming, it's the location of the third eye. So now many, people in brain studies are looking at the brain not as a triune brain, but as a quadrine brain system, where we have a 4-part brain, because this is all the different facilities that the brain provides us. So our autonomic nervous system, which is very much part of our brain, involves all the involuntary processes of the body. All the involuntary processes of the body would be function of the heart, circulation of the blood, breathing of the lungs, maintaining chemical balance, absorption, elimination, digestion, nutrition, response to stress and threat. All of this is automatic. So if somebody, let's say, if somebody puts a flame, like I'm not able to see, but there's a big flame fire that comes right behind me, I'm not going to think, I'm feeling warm. What is this crackling sound? Should I turn my head and look behind? No, this response to perceived threat is like this, right? This is part of the reptilian brain. This is also part of our autonomic nervous system functioning. When I eat some food, I'm not going to now switch on some buttons in my body, say, now we start the program of digestion and nutrition absorption and elimination. We don't need to do this. This happens automatically. The heart is beating automatically. We run, the heart speeds up. We settle down, we relax, we slow down our breathing, the heart stabilizes. This is all part of the autonomic nervous system functioning, which is happening all on its own. The autonomic nervous system maintains the equilibrium, balance, homeostasis of our body. The autonomic nervous system is very much relating to the primal brain, the reptilian brain, as well as the mammalian brain, as well as the neocortex. All of it is involved. So for example, if, today being chased by a wild animal is not really a threat that I have experienced. Many of us have not experienced it in normal daily life. These are not threats. But if I get a message that my bank account has been hacked and completely cleared out, this is information coming to my neocortex, right? This is part of the neocortex brain. Now, this can be a very threatening thought. So immediately this relates to threat in my body, because of which the body responds to this idea of no money in my bank, completely wiped out, threat in the system, and the body responds with anxiety, increased heartbeat, shorter breath, stomach upset, butterflies in the stomach, feeling anxious, feeling restless. Yeah, this is all response to threat. And then the neocortex comes up with thinking process. Now what am I going to do? How am I going to support myself? I'm going to be on the streets. I'm going to be poor. I will not have anything to eat. How will I take care of my children? What will happen to my child's education? How am I going to pay with the loan? All of this is neocortex. And how is this going to affect our mammalian brain, our feeling brain? We're going to feel, we're going to feel sad. We're going to feel fear. We're going to feel anxious. We're going to go into the future. So the whole system is really shaken up. And this is where we really need our autonomic nervous system to come into the foreground and stabilize us. Because when the body starts to stabilize, it has an effect on how our mind thinks, therefore how we process and respond to this threat and this problem. But the moment this threat and problem creates stress response, the nervous system is, and if we don't back into our body to regulate the body, there is no escape. So we need to come into understanding the function of the autonomic nervous system as an involuntary process of the body for our well-being, for our survival, also for thriving in wellness. So the body and brain are extensions of each other. They are not separate. They are connected by a complex pathway of nerves that carry information to and fro. Information from the brain is continuously being sent to the body. Information from the body is continuously coming to the brain. And our body has more intelligence than you can imagine. You can see this whole pathway of nerves in this image over here. We have nerves that is filling up our entire body. And did you know that 75% of our nerves are carrying information from the body to the brain, and only 25% of the nerves from the brain are coming into the body? That means we have afferent nerves that are receiving information from the environment around. Is it hot? Is it cold? Is the floor imbalanced? Is there threat in the environment? Is the environment friendly? Am I in a social place that I'm included? Am I in a social place where I'm being judged? What are the smells that I'm getting? Is it raining? Is it sunny? All of this, the body is continuously receiving information from the environment. This is 75% of information that is continuously being provided to the brain. And the brain is providing about 25% information back to the body in a way on the body what to do, how to adapt, how to regulate and balance with this. So what we need to do is we need to move away from being stuck in the neocortex and the thinking and come into the sensing of our body. When we come into the sensing of our body, we open up the full capacity of our afferent nerves, which are nerves that are created to receive information. So we can get the full information that the environment has to offer and that our body has a capacity to receive. Here is showing that the brain is part of our body. It's solid, you can touch it, it's soft, it's fluidic, it's filled with nerve fibers, it extends down like a tail as the spinal cord, and from the spinal cord, all the nerves are moving out into the peripheral nervous system. Now, our autonomic nervous system has two main branches. The sympathetic branch, which is, all about action. When we wake up in the morning, if we've had a good sleep and our autonomic nervous system is functioning healthy and in equilibrium and good homeostasis, then when we wake up in the morning, we are active. We want to get up, we want to have the process of elimination, we feel ready, we want to move our body, go into yoga, exercise, go to work. We're not taking medicine to feel like we need to be stimulated into action. Naturally, the design is after rest, the body gets active. So this is called the sympathetic branch. It gets warm, the blood starts circulating and gives us the impulse for activity. And the parasympathetic branch is when the body is tired, then it gives us the impulse to rest. We've had 8 hours of work, non-stop working day, a lot of work done, lots of coordination. Now the body's tired. And if you still have to push yourself, you're going to have a very strong cup of coffee or tea to keep your body stimulated against its natural response so that you can continue in a sympathetic mode. Otherwise, naturally, your body is going to turn into parasympathetic. It's going to give you the signal, now we need to rest. We need to sit down, put our feet up, have something nourishing. The body is hungry and it needs to move into hunger, eating, digestion and rest. So parasympathetic branch regulates the rest, sleep, digestion, regeneration, rejuvenation, healing, restoration, and meditation. All of this comes under the parasympathetic branch. And in the balance of the sympathetic and the parasympathetic, the sympathetic action, parasympathetic is rest. In this balance, there is the flow of life. So homeostasis is the balance of our autonomic nervous system and inner equilibrium that reflects states of health. Our body is designed to maintain homeostasis. Remember, this is the design of our body. Whether it's happening or not is a different thing. But the blueprint design of our body is to be in homeostasis. And now for a moment, we can take a moment to reflect like how many of us are needing a stimulant in the morning, especially if some of us are late sleepers, we don't sleep enough, we have problems with sleep, we wake up and our sympathetic branch does not switch on. We need that cup of coffee, we need that cup of tea, maybe 2 or 3 before we feel like, okay, I'm alive, I'm ready to reflect for yourself. You have that you need the sympathetic switch on. Or on the other hand, how many of us are wired into activity and into that sympathetic state that we're not able to kind of rest and regulate, that we need something to bring us down. We need chamomile tea. Some of us, sometimes I work with a lot of patients who have, who are on drugs that help them to stabilize. They are mood dippers. We need some medicine to fall asleep at night. Either we take a Restil compose. Nowadays, melatonin is really good, but we need something to settle down. Our body does not settle on its own. When we are in this situation, it means that there is a loss of equilibrium. Our body is not able to self-maintain the homeostasis. There is a deeper imbalance in the system. That is the beginning of health issues and diseases. As long as we maintain our homeostasis, our body is designed to be healthy and disease-free. Here is a really cute cartoon of homeostasis and the autonomic branches of our nervous system, right? So on one side, on the left side, you'll see this person sleeping on a seesaw, and that's the parasympathetic mode. And while the person is sleeping, if suddenly there is some threat, like a snake comes to attack it, it takes seconds for the body to get up, get into sympathetic mode, get into action and run. That's how fast our body can switch from parasympathetic to sympathetic. This is showing the resiliency of our body. So we're in deep sleep, everything's wonderful in our lives, and suddenly, there is a fire breaks out in our building. And what do? Are we going to be like, oh my God, I need a cup of tea. Can I have a cup of coffee before I think what to do? No, the body has already informed you what to do. You get up, you take your child, you run out. This is the resiliency of the body to move from deep sleep into high activity for survival. So this is also another example of showing the resiliency in health. And if you see this graph, the wave as it's going up and down, yeah, you can see on top it shows disease, on the bottom it shows disease, and right in the center there's blue. So if we have this graph of equal energy into activity, equal energy into rest, and then again equal energy into activity and rest, and it goes at a steady speed, then we are in a healthy space. If we are too much spiking to activity or too much dipping into inactivity, we move into the realm of disease and disorder. Dr. James Jealous from my mantra in my therapeutic work. This is what I read. If I'm working with any patient, I'm first diagnosing what is the state of homeostasis for this person. At least 80% of all conditions that patients see doctors for arise in the imbalance of the autonomic nervous system. So if you have symptoms, if the first thing you can do is start to stabilize homeostasis of your autonomic nervous system, 80% of your problem will go. Then we see what is left, and then we work on that more specifically. Often all the problems go and you're healthy again. Now, the interesting thing about homeostasis, it's very personal and it's unique to each person. What works for me may not work for you, and what works for another person may not work for both of us. And that's normal. So we need to also recognize, we need to make an inner inquiry and recognize what is it that really works for me for my homeostasis. And that depends on the kind of lifestyle I live, the work that I do, the food that I'm used to eating. If I'm born in South India and I'm grown up on that food, and I go into Norway, my body's going to get stressed because it's not used to that food. So what works for me is very unique, and we need to recognize personally what maintains our balance. So we all have our uniqueness in achieving homeostasis. While there are some basic rules of biodynamic functioning in our body, outside of that, we can discover what brings us into equilibrium. For some, it may be yoga and meditation. Yoga takes you into the present moment, the only place where life exists, this present moment. Now this, for some, every time they do yoga, they are, coming into homeostasis. Their nervous system is moving into a natural resiliency and flow. and that's what they need. This is by BKS Iyengar, this quote, "The body is my temple and asanas are my prayers." And it's really beautiful to recognize the body as that. For some other people like me, I need to whirl, I need to dance to maintain homeostasis. The kind of stillness I get at the end of a dance meditation, I cannot get it if I'm just sitting still for many hours. It's like when I have moved into that physical activity and for a couple of hours and then I sit, I feel like I'm off the floor. Now that is what it is for me. I'm much more physically oriented person, but it may not work for somebody else. I love this. My yoga teacher can do this, and she's in complete perfect balance, homeostasis and resiliency when she gets into this pose. For some others, their bodies will break, so they should not attempt it. But just to see the uniqueness of everyone's point for resiliency. And here is another image to show balance. Balance is not always centered. It's not the centering or the point of fulcrum that holds balance can be very different. You can see as these rocks are assembled, they are in perfect balance. How the weight is being managed up and down, left and right, there's a uniqueness in it. This is a beautiful cartoon. The little mouse is telling the crocodile, "Oh, life is stressful." The crocodile says, "Would you like a cup of tea? Will that help you?" The mouse says, "Okay." So the crocodile says, "Here, you can have my cup." And the mouse says, "Well, if you insist." And he gets into the cup of tea. And the crocodile says, And the mouse is saying, "Wow, this relaxing," thanks, as he's inside the cup of tea. And the crocodile says, "Well, but you're supposed to drink it. Well, whatever works for you." So drinking the tea was working for the crocodile. So in our daily life, it is natural for us to experience stress. But if we get hooked onto stress, then our mind is conditioned to only pay attention to stress, and it forgets that there is something resourceful. And if it is stuck only on the stress loop, then that's where we operate from. Then we operate from a stress environment. But if we're able to recognize that while it's happening, there's also resource, we start to search for resource, we start to life, then what we have is regulation. So between stress and resource, life is continuously regulating. And this is now I'll reach a point where there is no stress. No, life is going to keep bringing stress onto us. That's the nature of life. What can we do to support ourselves in moments of stress? One of the most important things is to not get hooked onto stress, but to keep our awareness open to see while the stress is there, what is resourceful, what is okay, what is still healthy, what still works. And this brings us into a space of regulation. This also brings us to the work of Peter Levine, who was who's a founder of Somatic Experiencing for trauma healing. He says there is no future in the past. The body lives in the present moment. Healing is happening here now. I cannot heal my trauma from 20 years ago by continuously working with the story 20 years ago. That trauma is causing discomfort in my body now. If I'm suffering, because it's my body that is creating these symptoms, even though it started with the trauma 20 years ago, I'm experiencing the pain now in my body. So what should I work with? Not with the story, with my body. This is what brings us to somatic experiencing, as Peter Levine founded his work, and he called it somatic experiencing for trauma healing. And he stated that trauma is not in the event, it's in our nervous system. If we work with our body, we can heal our trauma. But as long as we are stuck with the story and we're talking about the story and trying to analyze the story, we are only working on the neocortex. We are not employing the limbic brain and the reptilian brain, which is part of bringing regulation and health into our body. And Peter Levine employed the felt sense into his work a lot. Yeah. So he got the experience of sensing, feeling, thinking, being. Like we already saw with Gurdjieff's 3 sources of energy. And with yoga, the karma yoga, the dhyan yoga, the bhakti yoga, and the being would be the rajas yoga. In Gurdjieff's language, it would be presence of being. In Buddha's language, it would be, this awakening, Buddhahood. In Zen, it would be called, this. That's the beingness. So coming into sensing. Now we're going to move, I'm going to show you some images, and I want you to just take a few moments, look at the image and see what is the response in you that this image brings. Yeah. And you can put it on the chat, will be great. Or you can just sense it for yourself. When you see this image, what do you notice? Now, Niket, I can't see the chat screen.
What you can do is just go into the share screen.
Yeah.
And then you go into the advanced share, and you have show a portion of the screen.
Okay, you can see the chat screen?
Yeah, I can see the chat screen.
Okay, so then what I prefer is, can you just say it loud as
I'll
people
say,
are sharing?
no problem.
Yeah?
Yeah, okay. So relaxing, roughness, grounding, relaxing, agony, tingling, cool.
Great. So what I'm hearing is all the responses that are being put, what I'm hearing is responses
Anchoring.
on a sensory level. That's what
Deep feeling, soothing,
okay.
enjoying beach water,
Yeah. So
soaking,
this is all
leisure.
Lovely. See how diverse the sensory experience is for everybody.
Yeah.
I'm going to move to the next image. And just take a moment, just spend some time with this image, close your eyes, notice what is the experience in your body. One word, put it on the chat, and then Niket will read it out.
Community, love and care, closeness, hot, soothing, relaxing, soothing, love, family, bliss, family and love, bliss, bonding, relaxing and happy, family, love, relaxing, blissful, soothing, family, love, joy, bliss, nutrition, peace with love, nurturing, pampered, love, security, pampering, bonding.
Lovely. So all moving into more the experience on an emotional level. From sensing, we are now going into feeling, right? How different stimulations bring up different experiences of our brain. And what do you sense or experience with this image?
Divine, satisfaction, bliss, freshness, messaging, yummy, pistachio, exhilarating, blissful, refreshing, soothing, welcome rain, home, favorite smell, love, deft, relaxing, freshness, earth smell, attached, nourishing, soothing, childhood memories, pleasing, joy, yummy, quenching thirst.
So what I'm noticing from these responses is that now your experience is not only sensory, it's not only emotional, but it's a bigger experience that also brings up memory. So your neocortex is also involved with the limbic brain as well as your reptilian brain. The reptilian brain informs you of sensory experience, which you saw in the first image, rough, grainy, cool, etc. Second image was love, emotional, community, all of that was part of limbic brain. And now you're feeling the sensory, the limbic, as well as more, divine, exhilarating, more is being experienced. The more of your brain capacity is involved. Now we'll go to the next image here. And put in your sharing. What is your experience when you see this?
Yummy, delicious, tempting, toothache, indulgence, mouth-watering, hungry, yummy, hungry, mouth-watering, calorie load, tempting, wow, yummy, salivating, tempting, taste, sweet.
Okay, and this goes to show how chocolate cake can really express to us that resiliency and regulation is very unique and different for everybody. While for some people, this looks like divine relishing, and for some other people, it may bring some traumatic memories for them of toothache and other things. So that's great. And what about this?
Wow. Security, cuddly, protection, security, care, mother care, nurture. I have your back, thrill, lovely, guardian. Super cute, motherly, childhood, mom's care, belonging, soft, beautiful art, love, soft toy, cutie and cuddly, standing by, cozy,
Wonderful. I'm
explore,
going to go to the next image.
curious.
Here, what do you notice here? I'm sure all of us have been in this situation often
Stressed,
enough.
wondering, stressed out, problems, troubled, burden, tension, headache, exhausted, hopeless, overload, distress, stress, tired and exhausted, tired, lost.
Okay, great. Now here you see, just see the body posture, how our gestures also reveal to us what's happening. His hands are on his head like this. That's the neocortex. It means the neocortex is overworked. It's overused. And if this person has, if you are in this person's place and you have to move your posture, most likely the way you move your posture is first lift your head, roll your shoulders back. If someone asks him, how can you adjust your body that you feel better, he's immediately going to lift his head, roll his shoulders back, put his hands up, stretch back, release the neck, open the spine, lengthen out, twist, stand up, get off from the chair. He's using his body, he's lengthening his spine. And this way he's involving the other faculties of his body. It creates space. The overwhelm in the neocortex now has space to move and distribute. And this is how he moves from a stressful space into resource. Our body, that's all we need sometimes. And when we are in a better resource, our problem hasn't gone. The problem's still there. But we have better capacity to now deal with the problem in a resource regulated way rather than a stressed out way. I'm going to go to the next image. Yeah. Now, as you are looking at this image, I want you to apply what you have learned today. Yeah. If your reptilian brain is involved in this scenery, if you are this Buddha under the tree and your reptilian brain is involved, your limbic brain is involved, your neocortex is involved, right? This Buddha is not sleeping. This Buddha is fully awakened. What is your experience with this image?
Okay, guidance, soul involvement, tranquility, enlightenment, serene, harmony, divine bliss, nirvana, silence, centered, life is present, awakening, total presence, divine, oneness, enlightened, peaceful and content.
Lovely. Now that is why Buddha called the experience of Buddhahood to be awakening. Everything, every faculty of our brain wakes up. None of it is asleep, but there is such deep rest. There is a complete opening to the environment around. The environment around is resourcing us. Our afferent nerve is receiving the sensile experience of the environment. The nature around us is stabilizing and settling us as our mind awakens. And then when the body is in harmony and in alignment with all three centers, it is at rest and it is in a state of beingness. Now, when we say to observe without arriving at a judgment is a high art, what we're referring to is to observe ourselves first. The present moment is the field on which the game of life happens. So observing the game of life in this present moment, without judging, without adjusting, without needing to change it, just being, receiving as things keep shifting, wave upon wave, one wave after another, but the ocean is still there. And this is what is called the experience of beingness in our body, using our body intelligence to come into this beingness. When we talk about stress, a diamond is just a little piece of charcoal that handles stress extremely well. What does that really mean? I'm going to come back to this quote in a moment. I want to show you a very quick, short 1-minute video. And then after that, we're going to close it by me sharing with you maybe a 5-minute guided exercise on somatic intelligence. So see this video, and this is coming from the information from neurobiologists that we looked at, and from Sufi tradition, from yoga, from Peter Levine, and now here is a rabbi giving us a really beautiful example.
A lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside of a rigid shell. That rigid shell does not expand. Well, how can the lobster grow? Well, as the lobster grows, that shell becomes very confining.
Oh, give me one moment.
A lobster is a soft, mushy animal that lives inside of a rigid shell. That rigid shell does not expand. Well, how can the lobster grow? Well, as the lobster grows, that shell becomes very confining. And the lobster feels itself under pressure and uncomfortable. It goes under a rock formation to protect itself from predatory fish, casts off the shell, and produces a new one. Well, eventually, that shell becomes very uncomfortable as it grows back under the rocks. And the lobster repeats this numerous times. The stimulus for the lobster to be able to grow is that it feels uncomfortable. Right? Now, if lobsters had doctors, they would never grow, because as soon as the lobster feels uncomfortable, goes to the doctor, gets a Valium, gets a Percocet, feels fine, never gets off its shell. So I think that we have to realize that times of stress are also times that are signals for growth. And if we use adversity properly, we can grow through adversity.
So that was a really insightful talk by a rabbi. And it's talking about stress and symptoms in our body, you know, health issues in our body. That when it's giving us a different view on how to look at our symptoms, our disease, our illness, not as something that
One of the mysteries of life is suffering. Now, if people just believe that the world is an act.
Yeah. So coming back to the space of stress, that stress is not, you know, stress, symptoms, disease in our body, illness is not necessarily something going wrong. But if we are able to regulate, and what do we need? If we can listen to our body, listen to the sensory experience in our body, what the body needs to regulate again, then the body has its own capacity to self-heal. Instead of dealing with the symptom, taking the symptom away, we sit with the symptom. And then we see what the body needs, what kind of stable field it requires to settle in so the body can self-regulate and heal. Here, this is a quote from a Persian philosopher, Avicenna. Health is not facilitated by the physician, but by a higher ordering principle which gives form to matter. And here is another quote by the father of medicine, Hippocrates. Natural forces within us are the true healers of disease. Everyone has a doctor in him or her. We just have to help it in its work. The natural healing force within each one of us is the greatest force in getting well. This was in 460 BC. This is how medicine and curing people, healing started. And this is a really important quote that we must keep close to us and be reminded of on a regular basis. So that brings us to, I'm just going to come back to the screen. Okay. So that brings us to a short guided exercise before we close this and open for questions or sharings. For you to understand, we do a quick exercise, maybe just take 3 or 5 minutes to see how we can employ the intelligence in our body to shift our inner space. Okay, so find a way to just sit down, settle down in a comfortable way, see what you need to do to find more comfort, to adjust yourself. Take a back rest, use a cushion, put your feet up, find a way to get comfortable. And as you're getting comfortable, now this is a really open guided experience. I'm not, you know, telling you watch this or watch that. I'm just going to support you to open your awareness in your body and notice what comes to your attention. But the first most important thing to do is to create a stable field. Create some stability around us, some stability in our body posture, and start to invite a stable presence within us. You may already be aware of some symptoms, some health issues that you have in your body. It could be minor joint issues to some more major, you know, disease and illness issues that you're having, and that's okay. In your awareness right now, as you are stabilizing, be all inclusive. Can you include into this field of awareness whatever your body is holding? You might become aware of some experience of okayness in your body. You might become aware of some experience of symptoms in your body. The most important element here is, can you hold a presence that is all inclusive, all embracing, non-judgmental? That your attention is like a big container that holds all that is, the pain as well as the pleasure, the health as well as the illness, without letting your mind get stuck onto any one, just settling with what is. As you do that, bring your attention to the sensory experience in your body. We're not inquiring for what is the emotional feeling or the mental thought process about this right now. The inquiry is, as I'm stabilizing into this field of all-inclusive presence, what is the sensory experience in my body? How does my body respond as I stabilize, as I settle, as I embrace what is? So here I want to collect your observations on your sensory experience. Now we've done a very little, small exploration, moving into a stable field, deeper settling, all-inclusive presence, not judging, not isolating, just receiving it, embracing all of it as it is. And then we bring our inquiry to, as I settle in this, what is the sensory experience in my body? And as you recognize it, would be lovely if you just put it on the chat. We get some sharings,
Yeah, so
well-being.
if anyone wants to share, please put it on the chat, please. What is your...
You can just put one word: well-being, stillness, F10 and some geometry. I don't understand that.
That's a Monroe term.
Okay, you can explain that to me later, Niket.
Yeah, absolutely.
Blissful, stillness in body, calming, all-encompassing and holding, calm and happy, relaxed, loving, blissful, grounded and happy, bliss. Calming, restfulness, presence, tingling, purple red ball. Is that also a Monroe term?
Yeah, reball is a Monroe term.
Okay. A rising and passing away of material waves. It's beautiful to see that when we move into the sensory experience of the body, it is so holistic. It's not just about one sensation, but when the whole body can be experienced in oneness, this is a phenomenon that we come in touch with. A sense of wholeness. vibrations, restfulness. Okay. So coming back to somatic intelligence, this is an intro talk, and I will be, in September opening out training programs. So people who want to learn this work at different levels. One is you can learn it for yourself, and the other is learn to be a facilitator, that you can facilitate this for your friends and family. If you are already a therapist, this is great for integrated work. You can integrate this into any other therapeutic process that you have. So if you're a physiotherapist, if you're a homeopath, if you're a counselor, if you're a body worker, you're a massage therapist, whatever work that you're doing in healing and therapeutics, or not doing, and this is your first entry into wanting to be a therapist, it's a great way to start. It's a very naturalistic model, as you have seen, and it can integrate with any other modality really easily. You can weave it in. So we will probably be starting, this training program with Awareness Foundation in September, and Niket will inform you.
Yeah, so we are just working on the dates, and as soon as we have a confirmation, it will be posted on the virtual groups. And of course, Zia will post it on her group, so all of you will know when it's going to happen. It should be on the 2nd or the 3rd week as of now. Let's see how it pans out.
And,
So Zia,
yeah,
I guess you're doing it over 2 weekends, right?
So the first level 1 will be over 2 weekends. Yes, Zenobia, it will be online. Right now we're still working online. So it will be online, and it will be interactive. It won't be only lectures. It will be, you will have to work. We will set up a system of meeting rooms where you can work with other participants on the group online. So it is interactive, it's practical, you get to practice, and you get to apply the work very experientially. This is also, like, before we close, we have a couple of minutes. Niket, I don't know, maybe you can guide us if anyone has any questions.
Yeah, so if anyone has a question, they can raise their hand. Please raise your hand if you have a question. Yes, Rituji, please go ahead. Please unmute.
Yeah, done that. How long will it be? What timings will it be?
So
yeah,
go ahead.
We're still working it out. We haven't yet figured out the exact dates and timings. We have a rough idea, but we need to finalize it. But I'd say in a couple of days, we would finalize and announce it on the group chats for sure. It would be weekends. We're looking at 3 hours on a Saturday, 3 hours on a Sunday, and over 2 weekends. That would be the format for level 1. And then after that, going into level 2, 3, 4 would then go into the, into the therapist training, where you can then learn to facilitate this with other, people that come to you, or integrated in whatever other therapeutic work you're learning.
Thank you. Thanks.
And we advanced levels will also be online. The whole training that we start this time, which will start in September and plan to finish by end October, early November, the whole training will be online. So this will be an online format.
Okay. Anyone else has any questions? Okay, I guess, Zia, we are done. There are no more questions. So again, once again, glad to have you here. Great session.
Thank you.
Lovely having you on board, and we look forward to having the workshop. And
okay, thank you so much.
Let's see how it goes.
Thank you.
I'm still waiting for information from the Monroe Institute. We wanted to conduct an excursion workshop. Someone asked what's Monroe. It's actually it's an institute in America, and Awareness Foundation. In Awareness Foundation, we conduct their programs here. So most of the awareness people have experienced it, and if you all want to experience it, just come on to the virtual group. I don't know, Zia, you can post one of the links of the virtual group if they want to join in your groups, then They can know what we are doing,
Yeah.
what we are up to. Great. So glad to have all of you. Glad to have you, Zia. And we look forward to having you again.
Okay. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.